Yes,
Becky.
thank you, Lauren. Lauren,
That's
if
why
you
we
guys
have
don't
her.
know Lauren, she's our communications person. She's
Yeah,
totally
I introduced
awesome
her to Mom. I already
and
forgot.
very needed. I'll speak for myself that my my technological skills are somewhat limited.
That's why you heard it.
That's right. That's why we have good people. They make us look better than we are. Thank you, Lauren.
Mhm.
All right, she's awesome.
Mhm.
Okay, so we may have a few more people joining us. And we are recording now. I've pressed the button, so we're actually recording. So I want to just, I'm going to start with a welcome and prayer. First of all, just thank you because we've pivoted to the Zoom. We're sad to do that, but we actually have now, we're up to 22 people in our congregation who have tested positive for COVID in the last 10 days. And they're from all, age ranges. And so just be careful out there. We're in some kind of little surge. It's getting bigger. And our medical people tell me that people who work in the hospitals tell me that they're seeing an uptick in hospitalizations and cases again. So take it easy, be careful. Hopefully, everybody that I know of in our church that's been sick or is sick, nobody's had to be hospitalized so far. So we're grateful, but people have experienced sometimes some pretty difficult symptoms, at least for a few days. And it's taking people about a week or 10 days to get through it. So anyway, take it easy and thanks for being flexible. Even though we're done with the pandemic, it doesn't feel it's not done with us yet. So darn it. Okay, so I'd just like to start with an opening prayer, and then if you didn't get the agenda, I'll just tell you kind of what we're going to do, so it was attached to the Zoom link, but I'm going to do the opening prayer, and then we have about an 18-minute video that we're going to show you from Reverend Gary Stepp. Reverend Stepp worked for the annual conference, and now he just began a new appointment with the United Methodist Foundation. And he's worked with many churches, including Narding Park, on leadership boards and new models of ministry. And he was actually the lead consultant when we went through the Vital Church Initiative process back in 2017 and 2018. And he's also come and done a little bit of work with our leadership board. So he's got, I think, a helpful video on how the leadership board works. And then when the video is finished, Catherine Bow and Don Babcock from our leadership board are going to explain our organizational chart, which was also one of the handouts. And then Don is going to share with everyone the leadership board's decision on the requests from the petition. And then we'll have discussion time. And then Catherine Bow is going to close us in a gratitude circle. So, and our discussion, we're not going to break you up into small groups and go into rooms, even though we could do this on Zoom, but we don't want people to feel that they get lost in the Zoom room. So our discussion time, we're going to, oh yeah, all the handouts can be located at the bottom of this page. Lauren has it in the chat. So if you look in the chat, you can find the link. Thank you again, Lauren, that's wonderful. Anyway, and we decided it was easier if we all just talk together on Zoom rather than sending people to small breakout rooms. So we'll work on that, and hopefully we can, sometimes it's hard. If you want to say something, if you raise your hand or hit the little hand icon, then hopefully we can call on you and we'll make this work. We've done it before. We'll make it work. Okay, so let's start with an opening prayer. Gracious and holy God, we thank you for the gift of life itself. And even though we've had to pivot to a different way of doing this. We thank you for the gift of technology, which makes this even possible. We lift up our church and all the people who care so much about it, and our community and our nation and our world. And especially today, God, we pray for brothers and sisters in Gaylord and all that they're going through. Remind us of your mission and your preferred vision for all of us as the beloved community, and especially that you call us to do good and to show love in the world. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. And so Lauren's now going to share the video with everybody, and take it away, Lauren.
Can you guys all see that? Yeah, okay.
Greetings, Iron Park United Methodist Church. Hi, I'm Gary Stepp, Associate Director of Congregational Vibrancy of the Michigan Conference. Your pastor, Melanie Carey, has asked me to create a short video to describe the leadership board's responsibilities. I'll go through a series of PowerPoints to help describe that. The structure that you have moved to is called a simplified accountable structure. This PowerPoint will help unpack that. The structure was created about 12 years ago. And it was then, 12 years ago, it was initiated into the United Methodist Church, and the book of discipline was changed to help modify the structure. The older structure, what we're finding, was too far, the leadership was too far from the decision-making in the ministry. And so this new structure flattens the structure down where the decision-making is closer to the ministry of the church. We'll find that many businesses and nonprofits are doing the same thing. This is especially true in the auto industry. That happened years ago. So why the simplified accountable structure? Yeah, we want to have fewer people in meetings. People don't desire to spend a lot of their time in meetings anymore. They want to spend their time in ministry. So the potential for this new structure, though, is to hold the church and the leadership accountable. And that's the accountability to the mission and vision of the church. So this new structure will help you be missionally focused and align your resources around that vision that you have for Narden Park. Where is Narden Park going? Also, this new structure will help you make decisions more quickly, more adaptable. Sometimes it will feel like the decisions are made too quickly, but it takes a while to live into the new structure. And I mean years to live into the new structure, because it's a huge cultural shift for most churches. So the typical church structure before was the structure was driving the mission. In other words, all the things that we like to do, or that's the way we do things around here, were driving the mission rather than the mission driving the structure. And that change, that shift in culture is hard for churches to get a hold of, especially hard for leaders that have been in the old structure for quite some time. It's against that, we're moving against, we've always done it that way. And that's always difficult and it's hard. But this leadership board, this new structure will help you move hopefully to a more vibrant outreach, vibrant church that's outreaching and impacting your community. So it's involved. There's one board, but there's several hats now. Now all those hats sit at the same board. So this will be quite different from your old structure. The leadership board will have the ad council, the SPRC, the finance, and the trustees all at the same table. And you can see all those hats represent, right, all the people at the table. But the thing is, note that the people are not wearing those hats. Those are all at the table. In other words, there's a bit of a new lens they're going to be looking through, because they're all responsible now for all those areas of the church. And we'll describe in detail how that can happen. So the leadership board now sits with the responsibility of all these functions. So they'll wear all these hats. The church council will wear the SPRC, the finance, and the trustees all together. So now it's more of a holistic way to look at ministry. It's a new lens to look through. And so you take all those hats and you put it into one hat, and it's got a little propeller on it, and we'll describe what that means. But now what this multicolored hat is, the leadership now has a new lens to look through. It's not just looking through the finance, it's not just looking through the SPRC lens, but it's looking at the lens of the whole church. And so in the old model, you had representatives representing each of these areas. And what we found is it's better when we come to the table, not representing the area, but we all are looking at that through that same lens. And that's part of this board change, the leadership board change. And so the leadership board will wear all these hats actually simultaneously. In other words, they're able to get a big picture of the view of the church as they come together. They remind us of the generative and strategic work that we do. In other words, it's a balcony view. It's getting above, and we're able to see the bigger perspective rather than just through a one lens that we bring to the table, a finance lens or a trustee lens or a ministry lens. What we're now doing is bringing this one lens to see a bigger picture. And that's what vision is, to move us together forward to a bigger picture. And this is called the balcony view. And so this leadership board is operating a little differently. They're going to be looking more at visioning forward, right? Rather than managing areas of ministry within the church. And that's critically important. So this organizational structure, you have the church conference as normal, you have the nominations committee, you have the leadership board that's over then any standing teams that you wonder, how can they do all this work? Well, sometimes this work involves just a little more research. And so you can create task force, and that involves more people in the congregation, more leaders in the congregation that get more involved in where we're going, what direction we're heading in. So these task force then feed that information back up into the leadership board to make those decisions. The leadership board is also then underneath it, we have the finance management team. Who's managing the money? That's that finance team, right? The management team, they're collecting money, they're depositing money, they're creating all the documents that the leadership team needs to make in terms of financial records. Then you have a building management team. So the leadership board is not in charge of, overseeing all the management of the building. Who's going to care for the building is a lot of the question. Is this building management team is then given a budget, and they make the decisions about managing the building and taking care of all that is needed. Then you have the lead pastor. That person would be over the program staff to help lead the mission and vision of the church. Now, the leadership board decides on the vision and living to capture the mission of the church. The mission of the church is to make disciples for Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. Then the lead pastor brings that cast vision for the church, church-wide, guides the program staff into that for high ministry impact. So the four responsibilities of the governance board, this leadership board, would be stewardship, tending to the finances, right? Making sure that what the finance team gives them, they create a strategy, align all the resources around the mission and vision of the church. So they'll set the budgets. They set the budgets according to the vision of where you're headed. It's also generative, which means that the church is reproducing. Where is God leading you? Where is God dreaming you to move forward? What is your vision forward? And so what is changing in your community? How has COVID affected the church? So those are generative issues, right? That we need to dream through, that we need to work through and move through. And that's part of the leadership board's responsibility. Strategic. So once the vision is set, once we understand where the church is going, and I'll explain how that vision comes about, then we create a strategic plan around it. We set goals. We have goals that we live into, objectives that we can capture as we go. And all those resources are aligned around those goals and strategies to move forward. Also, accountable leadership. What does it mean to have a leadership that is accountable? A leadership that's accountable to the mission and vision of the church. A culture that's well aligned, right, to capture the vision set forth for Northern Park. That's exciting. And that's what happens. The leadership board just helps this process. But it's the church, it's the people, and it's the staff and the pastor that make it all happen. So the leadership board also has a set of guiding principles. In other words, the playing field. They're the officials on the field. It's not just everybody kind of doing their own thing, but it's a well orchestrated game or playing field, so to speak, where people have budgets, people know their boundaries in ministry, but they're not doing the day-to-day operations of managing the church or the ministries of the church, and that's so important. So then the management is for the pastor and the staff and the leadership. So accountable leadership, setting culture well aligned for high impact ministry. The leadership board is accountable to Jesus Christ, leading the church in mission and vision. The board holds the lead pastor accountable, and the pastor holds the staff, the team leaders, and the church accountable to capture that vision. They utilize the covenant, and there's a covenant that the board has, the leadership board, and guiding principles that guide them. And what's most important is listening to the community, having those feedback sessions, responding to change, like I talked about COVID, sharing the story of people going through transformation. How are we transforming the community? And having this ongoing communication with the church. So the purpose of this board is to accomplish the mission, make disciples for Jesus Christ to transform the world. What is the vision? How does Northern Park do that in their context, right? How are the leaders moving? What is God? Where is God moving you in that vision to impact your community and the world around you? So the board comes together, they discern, they research, they create those task forces that we talked about. They plan, they set goals, right? They hand those off to the pastor and the staff. Then they implement those for high ministry impact within the church, community, and around the world. We evaluate, was it fruitful? Did we change lives? Was that ministry fruitful, or were we just keeping busy? A lot of ministry that we do is just busy work. And so we're evaluating, does it have high impact? Fruitful means we're changing lives. Hearts are being changed. Lives are being touched in a new and different way. Then we reflect on that. Where does God continue to lead us? What ministries do we need to not do anymore? What ministries maybe do we need to add? Then we discern, we do research, and we start over again. That's the board, the leadership board's work. Two major challenges I've found in the structure. One is creating multiple communication streams. Communicate, communicate, communicate. You cannot communicate enough. The leadership board, and I've even talked about with Northern Park about this. How do we create these communication loops? the way we communicated before, where people were going to multiple meetings and they're finding out what was going on, it's just not happening anymore. So you have to create new ways to communicate. What I find churches say is, I don't know what's going on anymore. Nobody tells me anything. Decisions are made so quickly. Well, the leadership board is probably trying to communicate, but people, are just culturally stuck in a way of listening to where the church was going before. And so these new communication loops will take a while to take effect. And it is frustrating at times, but I encourage you to move forward and help the board, in those communication loops. In other words, and the other area is putting that mission first, a clear missional agenda for the church and the vision to move forward. This shift to accountable leadership is very difficult. We're so used to doing the way things we always did. This is much different. And so we're aligning all the resources around the mission and vision of the church. And that can be difficult. Meetings are more strategic, but they're not reporting. They're more visioning forward. We're looking forward rather than looking backwards. We don't report everything that we've done. We evaluate, but we don't report. We look forward and we vision forward. And that's the leadership board's responsibility. I also recommend churches to have an annual strategic planning retreat meeting. In other words, you evaluate, how did we do this year? Were we vital? Was our vision and our plan and our strategic plan helping us to move forward in vitality? Did we overcome some of these obstacles that COVID has created? So you look at your vision again, you look at the life cycle of the church. Has Narden Park moved on the upside of the life cycle? Are they gaining more people? Is it alive? We set at that time, once a new vision is set, and I recommend, I know you have a new pastor coming, this would be a great time for that new pastor to be part of the vision to move forward, to have the leadership board excited about new leadership and pastoral leadership as you move forward. So you can set budgets, set objectives after the objectives and the goals are set, and then you set budgets around that new vision in the fall. And then we recommend the Strategy Matters by Kay Cotan and Ken Willard that wrote this book to help you. They understand the church well. And so it's a day or a weekend of planning and retreat and moving forward. I just want to thank you so much for this time. I'm sure you have a lot of questions, and Pastor Melanie is there to help answer those. And I just pray as this spring time comes and new growth comes, I pray that you have that new growth. I pray that for this transition for your church, as you say goodbye to Melanie and you say hello to your new pastor, I just pray for you in this transition. And I pray for you in this transition to this new accountable structure. It's difficult, but it is fruitful. May the Lord bless you and keep you. Amen.
Excellent. Hi there. Hi, Don.
Hi, Catherine.
So we're going to go over how the leadership board works. Were you going to start it out? I didn't know what you wanted to start off with, since you're down.
I can lead off a little bit.
Okay.
I think the video we just watched from Reverend Stepp did a really good job of laying out the basics for our new structure. If you look at the organizational chart that was included in the handouts, and also that was shown in the video, there really are two sides after you look at the church conference of the top. We have the staff side on the right, and then you have the lay side on the left. And none of the structure is very deep. We have a bunch of listing things beneath the top half, but it's only goes down 2 or 3 levels. So everything is very much close to the top where decisions can be made very quickly. We have the leadership board on the left side, which has standing committees. And then our standing committees are the building management team, the VCI facilities team, the kitchen team, the house team, the grounds team, rentals team, insurance team, parsonage team, and the capital projects team. We also have the finance management team, which has an audit team and a budget team, and the endowment team, which has memorials. Those will stay with us all the time, and people will come and go as we need them for certain projects or more focused things to do. And we can also create new teams as things come up. There's a lot of flexibility there, but these teams that are mentioned here on the left side, they stay, they're permanent. On the right side, everything there is permanent as well, everything that's in the gray. And the lead pastor along with the staff works as a unit, and then there's a communication between the lead pastor and the leadership board. Catherine, do you have more to maybe talk about that?
Yeah, I do. There is the nominations report that we will have attached in the information that breaks down every single group, leadership board, who's on it. And also the lay leaders committee of nominations. So it details who's in each group, even on teams that isn't nominated on. So it is 2 pages long. So take time to look at that to see who is on what team, so you understand that. And we also have our Ghostbuster list. It's who do you call, right? Who do you call when toilet's broken, you know? There's a list and phone numbers, who's in charge of what. It's probably going to be added on to, but you can see their phone numbers, their names, phone numbers, and email. And I think this will be really helpful. We'll also have a copy in the office, but everyone in the congregation should have this. So we wanted to make sure you knew about this new list. Oh, and on the website as well. And also to get something on the leadership board agenda as well, if you have something of concern, you can reach out to Don Babcock. He's the chairperson of the leadership board who was just speaking. And so his information will be available as well. And there is a form that you do fill out that you need to request to be on the leadership board agenda. It's available on the church website. Not all matters need to go to the leadership board. So the staff can direct those to the appropriate areas as well. Okay.
And if you contact me and you can't find the form, I'm sure I can get a copy to you.
Okay. Next, Don, do you want to go ahead and talk about the decision
Sure.
regarding the petition?
Yes. As we have just learned from Reverend Stepp, the leadership board is not intended to micromanage the processes of the church, but instead to look at the larger picture of the church through the lens of our mission of show love and do good, through our mission statement, which reads, journeying through Jesus by growing, serving, and connecting with God in our community, and through our core values of inclusivity, relevance, passionate worship and music, generosity, growth, and connections. All that being said, we did receive an issue about the church sign. And in response, the leadership board has taken some time to create these congregational conversations, and also has taken time to listen, to discuss, and pray on how to answer this concern. In the end, we have decided to leave the messages on the sign and add a new graphic to the rotation of the messages. It reads, "We welcome everyone." I would personally like to thank all of you who have participated in this process, plus all the members of the leadership board.
Thank you.
And now we want to open it up for questions. It's okay. You might not be able to see me, but yeah, there I am. No problem. We want to open it up for questions. And this is your time to discuss. So like I said before, if you want to raise your hand or, you know, if you put something in the chat, Lauren can help us with that too. We have some questions on the agenda. If nobody has a question, we'll discuss those, but let's take your questions first. So Sue Ward, do you have a question? Do you have a question, or I see you waving your hand? Are you just talking? You're on mute. Yes. She's just talking. She's on mute.
Oh.
There you go. Okay. You were waving your hand, so I thought you had a question. So
That's so funny.
that's very funny. All right. And remind you that if you're on mute, if you have a question, to take yourself off mute so we can hear you. So what questions do you have about the leadership board or about the decision that Don just talked about? Or maybe you have a question about, you know, nominations or the Ghostbuster list, whatever you have. We're here to answer your questions to the best of our abilities. Anybody have a question? Yes. Joanne.
I just wanted to know, so is the sign put to rest? Like, is that how it's going to be? Because that was like a huge passion for me. And I didn't even know it was an issue that it may no longer say Black Lives Matter. And so I was just wondering, is it put to rest as far as the leadership board knows?
Don, you want to answer that?
Yes, as far as we know, the matter is finished. We decided to leave what's currently up there, and add the new sign, the slide to the sign, which says everybody's welcome, all is welcome.
Right. Any other questions?
I have one. This is
Okay.
Dorothy.
Hi, Dorothy.
I know through a lot of the discussions that we talked about and at some of the tables that I were at, a lot of people were uncomfortable with the "we welcome everyone" statement, even though we're continuing to keep the two slides that people seem to have a problem with. Why are we not putting something down like "we are an all-inclusive church," since so many people have a concern with the "we are welcome" phrase?
I wasn't sure that, I didn't know that it was "we are welcome" was a problem. I thought it was
All
What
lives
was it?
matter.
all lives matter.
No,
Or
I
was
know,
it-
I understand the
sorry.
all lives matter, and I understand the LGBT were the two that some people seem to want to come down. And I'm so proud of our church for not removing those. But at every table I sat with, someone at the table, at least one, if not more people, felt that "we are welcome" is an off-putting statement because they know so many churches where that sign is on their front banner, but it does not include everyone. So I'm wondering why we chose that instead of a phrase like "we are an all-inclusive church" that does say we include everyone.
I have to admit, I hadn't heard that conversation. I didn't know that there was history behind that phrase.
Okay. Well, there is, and I heard it at all three of the meetings that I went to. So that's why, to me, it's kind of disturbing that that's what we ended up with.
So, so Dorothy, the thought is that with the other signs still there, the other slides on the sign rotation are still there. And then it says, "we welcome everyone." And there's actually a rainbow in the welcome graphic. So
Okay.
that was also our hope, that would also signal to people that, and if they watch the other slides, they would see that as well.
Yeah, knowing that
so-
the rainbow flag is in there is a big positive, because obviously there wasn't
Yeah,
any
so
visual
in
of
the-
that.
If you drive by the sign, or if you sit outside and watch the signs rotate, because you know there's
Mhm.
like, I don't know, 10 or 12 of them, you'll see
Right.
that there's a rainbow graphic in the, where it says "we welcome everyone."
Okay,
So we felt like that was a different message than just simply all are welcome, which was, I heard people talking about that, what you're saying about something that said all are welcome. So we chose, we welcome everyone.
okay.
Try to stay away from the other statements, which seems more loaded to us.
No, that visual and how you're explaining it is perfectly acceptable. Obviously, I haven't had the patience to sit there and scroll through all the signs, so.
Well, you know, yes, and I also want to say here, because we did get some criticism from folks about how long each slide was up. There was a time where people were concerned that some slides were up longer than others. And just so you know, they're all up there for 30 seconds. And there are a few times where, like this week, the rummage sale committee asked us if we could have the rummage sale signs up for longer than 30 seconds, which we did. But usually all the signs are up there for the same length of time. Someone told me, you know, that every time they drive by, they see the same sign. So they wondered, and it just happened. That was just, you know, the luck of the thing.
The
There's not-
drive-by.
Yes, right. And so, and we can't, the city of Farmington Hills has a rule that you can't have the signs up there for, I mean, they have to be up 30, they can't be less than 30 seconds.
Yeah, because you can when you're driving by, 30 seconds is just long enough to see it. If it's
Right.
shorter,
That's
then
the
you kinda
shortest
miss
amount
it.
of time that we're allowed to have them up there. Because I know
Mhm.
some people also suggested that we move down to 20 seconds and we're not allowed to do that. And a couple people even said, well, what if you did it? Is someone really going to notice? And the thing is that you would not believe all the things, like we've had, you know, complaints about our lighting and all kinds of stuff. And because we're so close to City Hall, you know, people do turn us in for things. So we really need to follow the regulations so that we don't get a fine, because that would be what happens, is the church would get fined by the city for breaking the rules. And the reason Farmington Hills has that rule is because it's distracting to drivers, and we have a lot of people who drive on 11 Mile. So I know this is, you know, very deep minutia that probably you're all glazed your eyes over on, but those are the reasons that, you know. And if you want to know more about the timing of the sign, John Gingrich knows a lot about that, and Linda in our church office knows a lot, because they've had to make sure that we comply for, you know, all the city rules.
Just
So
to
if someone,
interject, I'd like to interject that the rules also include, you're not allowed to have a scrolling message or any movement.
Yes.
For example, you see signs other places that might have a waving flag waving in the breeze. That's not permitted by the city. Anything with motion.
so if someone has an idea of something they'd like to see on the sign, then they send it to the leadership board and request something.
They can send it into the staff.
Right to the staff.
Yeah, the leadership board just wanted to be clear that this decision was the leadership board's decision.
I don't know.
But our staff are the ones who actually put the items out there.
Okay,
Now, just because someone asks to have something put out there doesn't mean it automatically gets out there, because, for example, like John just said, we can't do scrolling messages. And we also have, you know, some criteria of what we put out on the sign.
Yeah.
We don't just put every single thing out there. You know, like
Absolutely.
we're not going to have a sign that says, you know, the leadership board is having a meeting.
Right.
That's, we try to put things that we think are things the community would want to know and participate in.
Well, lately, like the prayers for Ukraine and some of the things that have gone on have been very meaningful to see up there, and really good to see in front of our church. So it's good that it's updated and relevant. So.
And as we've been listening, and as the people have been saying that they felt that we didn't have enough information or things on the sign, we've worked hard to try to add some things so that there's more things on the sign. I mean, the reason we didn't have as many things like a year ago is because, you know, friends, a year ago, we weren't even having in-person worship. Remember that we just started back into in-person worship on June 6th, a year ago. So partly why we didn't have a lot of things on the sign is because we didn't have as many activities happening at the church. But you'll notice now we have more things there because we have more activities.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that clarification. That helps a lot.
Sure, great question.
Yeah, thanks for asking. Anyone else? Yes. Lynette?
Yes, for the things that are on the sign, because I have not sat out there and read every one of them. Just as I go by, I see what it is. Is there a place, because I'm thinking about Stephen Ministry, you know, and maybe we could put something on, but I don't know if there's one already on there. So would Lyndon would I contact her to see if anything is listed on that
Yes,
under that topic?
yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Anyone else? One of the things I wanted to bring up too is making the congregation aware that you are able to attend our monthly leadership board meetings. We typically have them on the third Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m. And I just want to, you know, put that out there. I don't know if people know that, if they actually see that in the minutes, but definitely, you know, you're welcome to come. Oh, in person and on Zoom as well. We do both. Yes.
And we usually, the leadership board usually meets in the meeting room, which is the room across from the conference room. There is a section, if the leadership board is discussing something related to personnel, that part of the meeting is a closed session. So if you attend, you might be asked to step out just for that moment. That would be the same if we had a staff parish committee. That part of a staff parish meeting is also not open because when we do HR things, otherwise it's completely open. If you'd like to get the Zoom link, you can let any of us know. I mean, myself or, you know, Pastor Phil. And by the way, Pastor Phil is on here with everyone. Can you wave, Pastor Phil, so everyone can see him? Thank you for being with us, Pastor Phil. He's been with us for almost all the conversations so that he could listen and understand what's happening. So deep appreciation for that, because like me, he's still serving his current church. It's like having to do two things at one time. So thank you, Pastor Phil. And you'll all get a chance to meet him in person in July when he's here. But anyway, I'm sorry. Yeah, you can't. So if there's personal issues like would be for staff parish, what will happen is that section of the agenda will be a closed door section. So if you're attending the meeting and you're not on the leadership board, you would be asked to step out for that discussion. But you could be there for the rest of the agenda. Is that what you were saying?
Yes.
Okay, yes. So does that make sense to everyone? Do you have questions about that? So if you'd like to be at the meeting on Zoom, Linda in our church office can provide the link for you, or any of us that are on the board, myself or Pastor Phil when he gets here. We can always provide the link. And we want to make sure people know that, because there was some concern that the meetings weren't open, and they are open, except for when we discuss, you know, staff parish kinds of issues. And then we get the minutes up on the website. We're working on doing that quicker. This last month, we did it in just like a few weeks time after the meeting. It was like pretty quick. So yeah, 2 weeks, we got it up there. Thank you. Amy Dowell is there. So Amy, can you wave? She's the secretary of the board. She does a great job with the minutes. And they're up on the website. So if someone has a question. What else? What other questions do people have?
Any questions?
I have one.
Okay.
If you wanted to start something new at Narden Park, a new group, a new ministry, who, would you know who to contact and what the next steps would be?
Anybody? No?
Okay, so let's walk through the most recent thing that just got started at Narden Park, just as an example. So a couple of months ago, Alan Munez, who plays in our band, and his wife, Chela Hernandez, decided that they felt really called to start a new children's ministry, children's ministry and adult ministry, but especially for children. Especially for the Latino community that's growing around us. So the first thing they did is came and talked with me. And then because it was a children's related ministry, the next thing they did was talk with me and Kristen Tratchett, who is our youth and children's ministry person. There's Kristen. And right, Kristen, we had a couple of meetings together. And Kristen and I went over things like, okay, if you're going to start a new ministry, when would it be? And what kind of budget do you need? And, we kind of discussed lots and lots of details around it. Kristen, what kinds of things did we discuss besides the budget and those kinds of things?
We discussed what the layout of the program would be, for how long, the target audience, and what the mission of the program is. All of these things that, kind of that go into getting a program started. Yeah. Everything that it takes. It's a lot of moving parts.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then after we met for, a couple of months to do all this planning work, then the very next thing we did was let the board know that this ministry was going to be starting, because we already had a staff person who was overseeing it, and letting other people in the children's ministry know. We discussed it at the staff meeting because it's a program ministry. And everybody thought it was a good idea. When we took it to the board, they thought it was a good idea. Again, they weren't necessarily approving it because we had it all ready to go, but we wanted to make sure that they knew about it. And then we launched it about 2 Wednesdays ago, right? We've had it running for 2 Wednesdays now, and it's going great, and we're really excited about it. And so that's an example of how you might get something started. Maybe you have a group or what, so you need to connect up with a program area, or if it's something about the building, you connect up with someone on the building maintenance team, or I don't know, whatever idea you have. We try to make sure it gets connected into our structure, but that's how you would start. And I just want to lift that up because, again, there was confusion about how do we start new things, and how does that work? So do you have questions about that? Yes, Lynn?
When you were describing starting the new Living Seeds ministry, one thing that you didn't talk about was figuring out whether or not there was money needed or how they would get money. And I think that is an important part of an example. So.
Okay. So luckily, there's not a huge budget for this, because there's a lot of people who are volunteering their time and kinds of things, but we are, using coffee, and there's some church school supplies, but luckily we have a lot of resources. But there are some budget needs. And so when Kristen and I and Chela and Alan discussed it, one of the things we thought of is, because it's new, it would fall under the disbursement of the Newing Endowment for Christian Adventure and new programs for children. So when we get to the place where we might need some money to cover those expenses, the plan will be that Kristen will be doing an endowment request from the 2022 disbursement of the Newing Endowment. This is a perfect example of what falls under there. So that's how we're funding it. And there's like, I mean, $7,000 or $8,000 each year that comes off of the Newing Endowment. That this program won't even, come close to that. But we've got it funded that way. So that's the other reason to talk with program staff, is that we might be aware of funds and how to access them. And the good news is, in our new structure, we're able to send a message to the endowment team and get that money transferred. And it's just really, that's all it takes, as long as the endowment team makes sure that it's under the correct, guidelines of the endowment request. And if you recall before, some of you who were around before, it took 7 different layers of bureaucracy to get the endowment monies released. And so we're able to do that in a much more streamlined way. And I'm really grateful to our endowment team. And if you look on the nominations list, you'll see that Gianna Lampertius is the chairperson, and then Dean Menning and Pam Wright are on the endowment team. So it's really a simple process, and our transfer process involves our treasurer, Carol Trost, who's a paid employee, and our bookkeeper, Carl Heiss, to make sure that the money, when it gets transferred from our investments, gets put into the right account. And then you can keep proper accounting of it. Okay. Does that answer that question, Lynn?
Yeah, and I think that it is a little bit of a shift, and it's all about everything. Just because we have to spend money doesn't need to be approved case by case by case. If it's already fits somewhere in the budget, as I understand it, then it doesn't need approval to happen. It's just understanding the budget, so you know where to find the money, and is there room in that budget, depending on what the other expenses are in the budget, right?
That's a really good point. So that's another piece. Thank you, Lynn. That's another piece of the leadership board. One of the guiding principles of the leadership board is that if you are staying within your budget, whatever it is, then you do not have to come and get permission for every single thing you're spending. And that's way different than it used to be. You'd have to come and get everybody to approve every single piece of it. So like the missions committee, they just spend the money that's available, and that's what they do, or any other committee. Here's an example. The parsonage, all of you probably know that John and I are moving this coming Friday. Yikes. The moving van is coming, and we will not be, I'll be commuting back and forth here through June 12th. We're moving to a condo that we're renting in Holt, Michigan, which is just south of Lansing. And in between when we leave and when Pastor Phil comes, we need to make sure that the parsonage lawn gets mowed, because as we know, the grass grows, right? So I was just actually, while the video was playing, I was writing out a check request for the person who's going to take care of mowing the parsonage lawn in the month of June. And I'm filling it out because Laura Kaysen is the parsonage team chairperson, but she asked me if I'd fill it out and take care of it. So we have our wonderful next door neighbor is going to mow the lawn for that time. So when Phil and Gail come to parsonage, they won't be like up to their knees in you know, in lawn things, but it's in the there's a parsonage budget. And so it's just getting charged there. So we don't have to go get special approval for it, even though it's not an expense that is usually part of the budget. It's only because we have this transition time and we want to make sure that the lawn stays in proper order. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? Great. It was easier to have our neighbor do the lawn than have somebody else have to come over or get a lawn service for just 1 month. All right. But speaking of the lawn, they've come, the people who are doing our grounds right now have just showed up to mow the lawn. So if you hear lawn mowing, so it's very funny, but they're like mowing the lawn right outside my office window right now. Because as you know, it's been raining and no one's been able to do the lawn, and our lawn is pretty long here at the church. So, and that's part of the budget. What else? Other questions that people have?
Well, if I could just add a little example, we just gave an example of a smaller scope project that started, but if someone came with a big idea that involved adding staff or, you know, putting a 3rd story on the building for some reason, that would come to leadership board. So that's kind of the dividing line. If it can fit into the budget and it works within current operation, the leadership board has given the authority to the staff who's responsible to just make those decisions and go. If it's larger, it comes to the leadership board. So there we go.
And if you look, every ministry connects to something on the org chart, just about. The only ministry that doesn't, and I don't mean this as a criticism, this is just the truth. The rummage sale is not connected to anything on the org chart. So, but everything else is connected and runs through the entire org chart. So that means that anytime that a ministry is happening, it's all connected and we can help facilitate it. And new ministries can happen all the time. And the reason the rummage sale isn't connected is that it never has been. It's been its own thing. So I just want to point that out.
Lynette?
I just have a comment that these handouts I think are great. So I find them really helpful. So thank you, whoever put these together and distributing them. It'd be great for new members as well. So thank you. I think they're great.
Great, thank you.
They're on the website as well. And yes, we'll try to distribute them. And it, you know, the leadership board, we've been learning more and more about the more need for communication. That was in one of the slides in the video. And so, you know, I think it was Pam Wright who came up with the idea of this Ghostbuster list, which I think is great. So you know who to call, who you're going to call when you need whatever. And we'll try to make these things more available.
I just want to sing a song.
And you just want to sing it. Yeah, the Ghostbuster song. The other thing is this segues really well into announcing to you that we are going to have a town hall meeting. You will, I won't be with you. So the idea for the leadership board is to have quarterly town hall meetings for people to attend so that you know what's going on, because a lot of people's biggest complaint is usually, I don't know what's going on. So we've agreed on a date in September, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it's September 11th, Sunday after church, after the both worship services. And that will be the fall town hall meeting. And for those of you who've been part of Narden Park for a while, you'll remember that during the VCI process, the Vital Church Initiative, we had regular town hall meetings, and we let people know what was happening. It's going to be that kind of style meeting again. Someone asked me last week, why haven't we had town hall meetings this year? And this is my answer. This is just me. My answer was, well, the leadership board's intention was to have a town hall meetings, but instead, because of the petition, we needed to have the conversations. And it's too hard to have the conversations, to organize them, and the lunch and everything that's been included, because if you think about it, there's been 4 of them. And then also do town hall meetings is too much. So that's why we didn't have town hall meetings. But now we'll be able to start that. And so September 11th will be a town hall meeting. So again, if you attend those, they'll be recorded, just like we're doing now. And that way, for people who are like saying, I don't know what's going on, or you want to know what's going on, this will be a way for people to plug in more and ask questions. Anything else?
Anything else? Anyone?
Okay, wow, great. You want to do the
Wonderful.
gratitude circle?
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. Again, this will be up on the website, this recorded time today. So if you know somebody who has to see it, just direct them to the website. I'm going to close today with a prayer.
Catherine, can I
So-
interrupt for a moment? Before we do the prayer to close this, I logged into the sign images and was able to capture the new image we have.
Oh, okay, great, thank you.
So that's what we've got on it now. And I'm not sure, Don, did that go on like towards the end of the week or?
Friday, it went on Friday.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
been on since Friday.
Great, great.
Thank
So,
you, John.
sure. Okay, as you were.
Thank you so much. Let's bow our heads. Creator God, as we gather today, we praise you for this day and your purpose for it. Reset our agendas as we sit in your presence. For you assure us that where we are together in your name, you are also here. Recalibrate our intentions and refocus our hearts. Your will for our lives does not always reflect our plans. Change them to reflect your will. Help us to understand that we don't need full clarity to walk into the unique purpose you've laid in our lives. Lift our eyes to seek you first today and always, surrendering our need to achieve, understand, and be known. Shift our perspective to seek your peace above all else. In every situation we ponder in our daily lives, let the Holy Spirit translate your commands. Give us renewed strength and godly courage to obey you without questioning. Forgive us for striving beyond our means, worrying, and forcing results. Help us to listen without judgment, to ask questions, and to learn about others, as we know everyone has wonderful gifts to share. Let us remember to love one another. Only you know what lies ahead. You are our Father, you're just and righteous. Though our circumstances will be unfair from time to time in this life, you're always our unwavering protector and shield. Let your peace rain down on us today as we seek you more than anything else. In Jesus' name, amen.
Mhm.
All right, thanks everybody for being part of these conversations. Again, this stuff is all on the website. If you have a friend who says to you, I didn't get to the meeting and I want to hear what it said, or you want to rewatch the video is up just by itself as well. So you could just click on that. But tell your friends so that they get their information. That's another thing that happens a lot is people ask their friends for information instead of coming directly and asking. And sometimes when they ask their friends, they actually don't get all the information. So, and especially not necessarily all the details correct. So, and then people react to that. So we want to make sure that people have the details and get all the proper information so that they understand. Okay.
mhm.
So bless you and keep you and enjoy the extra 25 minutes of time. We finished early. You can also contact myself or any member of the leadership board if you have other questions. We're here to answer your questions. And we've got a number of people on the leadership board who are on this Zoom call as well, or any of our staff members. Okay, and Kristen's cat. That's right. So, all right. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thank you. You have a great week.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Stop the recording. I was like,